Hey everybody, this is Sarah Spencer with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and this is Know Your Dogs. It is the 15th anniversary of the Gator Stomp, and I'm sure if you were a Georgia fan, you remember in 2007 when Georgia players celebrated in the end zone after scoring that first touchdown against Florida. It seems like everybody has a fun story about it, and we figured who better to commemorate the occasion than former Georgia coach Mark Richt. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to be here, Sarah. Chip, everything going good?
Going fantastic.
We got our Georgia beat writer, Chip Towers, but we see him all the time. So,
yeah.
you know, Mark's the guest of honor here.
I didn't realize till you guys brought it up that this is the 15th anniversary of that play that's come to be known as the Gator Stomp, or I guess it's the Gator Stomp game of 2007. And so 15th anniversary, it's another anniversary, Coach.
Yes.
We have a lot of anniversaries nowadays.
That's right, they keep adding up.
And we want to get your reaction in real time to this play because I know you've talked about it a little bit, but people are still curious for the exact story behind it. So Chip's going to pass you his phone here.
Let's take a look.
Was it orchestrated? Was it not orchestrated? Was it?
Power to the left side on 3rd and goal. Marino up the top to break the play. Yes. Georgia touchdown.
Oh, look out.
Here comes the entire team. Watch this.
There's like a 2-second delay and then everybody comes running.
They have 15 hankies in the air on this one.
15 hankies in the air.
This was planned. This was absolutely.
He said this was planned, but
This was absolutely planned.
it wasn't quite planned the way it ended up. But we'll talk about that in a second.
To give up the penalty. Look at that. That was planned.
By the time the camera was on me, I kind of got in the spirit of it. But
You guys see
if they'd have
clapping?
showed me immediately, it'd have been a little different reaction.
There we go. So I know you've talked about this, you've touched on it before, you've been asked about it before, but can I get your just knee-jerk reaction to that? And then also, was it planned? We heard, was it Vern Lundquist who said that? What was the story behind it?
Well, it was, first of all, the reaction. I mean, you can't help but grin. If you're a bulldog, anyway. Just Gators don't like it much.
No.
But, you know, Gary Danielson was saying it was planned, and
Oh, yeah.
there was a plan, but it didn't go quite as planned. What happened was, and this is my head coaching version, the players might look at it differently, but you lose some in the translation every once in a while. But what happened was we had just played, just like this year, there's Vanderbilt, Open Date, Florida. All right, so that's what it was back then too. So we played Vanderbilt. Barely beat Vanderbilt at Vanderbilt. And I felt like we had no heartbeat that game. We had no energy, no juice, so to speak. I'm like, we got to get some juice. I got to figure out how to get these guys fired up, right? So I had the same issue at Florida State when I was the offensive coordinator. We'd be beating teams and we'd score a touchdown and everybody act like it was no big deal, or we'd win the game and in the locker room there's no celebration, no juice. You know, I'm like, we got to change it. So back at Florida State as a coordinator, I said, look, y'all don't worry about Coach Bowden. I got him covered. But the first time we score this next game, I want y'all to celebrate hard enough to get a touchdown. I mean, to get a penalty for celebration. And that was the big penalty of the day, you know. So when I told the offensive team, I'm talking to the 11 guys on the field, right?
Sure.
So
the guys actively playing.
Yeah, the guys in the game, the team on the field celebrate hard enough to get a penalty, right? So it worked back at Florida State. So I remembered that, and I'm like, we got to do that at Georgia. So I told the boys early in the week of the Open Date that we were going to do it. You know, I want to score the point, score the touchdown on the first touchdown, and I wanted everybody to celebrate hard enough to get everybody fired up, right? So as we're getting ready for prepping that for that game, kids would score against the scout team, and a guy might spin the ball, or a guy might spike it, or a guy might, you know, jump over the goalpost if he could jump high enough and, you know, dunk it over the goalpost. And so I'm thinking all these little individual celebrations are going on, right? So I started to think about it, and the night before the game, I said, had the team, you know, after dinner like we always do, and I said, look, I talked about celebrating after the first touchdown, but here's the parameters. I wanted to make sure you guys understand. Number one, if we don't score in the first quarter, we're not going to celebrate. If the first touchdown is in the fourth quarter, we're down by 40, we're not celebrating. I said, so don't even think about that. So if it happens, it has to happen in the first quarter. I said, second of all, you guys have been celebrating individually, and I don't want an individual celebration. I want a team celebration. Mm-hmm. So when I'm saying a team celebration, I'm thinking of the 11 guys on the field team, not the whole team.
Not the whole bench.
Not the whole team.
The
So I
entire
said, I'm emphasizing I want a team celebration, and I said, and if we don't get a penalty thrown, if you don't celebrate hard enough, I'm running all you guys. All right. So I'm thinking going into the game, 11 guys on the field to celebrate. Well, sure enough, they get the ball first. I think they fumbled it. We got the ball, started driving. I think we ran the ball every down. It was like a no-shot Moreno drive.
Yeah.
So it's 3rd and 1, as we saw. 3rd and 1 on the goal line. No-Sean jumps and reaches it over. The touchdown goes up. And then I'm expecting a celebration on the field, but I feel this big giant breeze going by me, and the whole team is running on the field, and I truly was in shock. I'm like, what in the world is going on? Everybody but Daniel Ellerby. There's one guy that stayed.
Ellerby didn't run on?
Yeah, I looked at Ellerby. I'm like, why didn't you run out there? He said, Coach, I'm so deep in the doghouse with you, I'm not about to run out there. So anyway, by the time the camera got on me, my bewilderment was over, and I got excited because everybody else got excited. And sure enough, there was 2 penalties that forced us to kick from the 7.5-yard line.
That was the perplexing thing for me. I'm sitting in the press box at the time. And
what are you thinking is that's going on?
Well,
You're
I
thinking
mean,
like,
everybody
what?
was thinking the Florida Riders, the Georgia Riders, they kind of have different sides of the room.
Right.
And everybody, there was some colorful language that came out of a few guys like, what the bleep are they doing? What is going on? And then, it kind of just kept going. It wasn't like, you can see
they had to make sure we got flags.
Yeah, but they're out there in Trenton Sturdivant's doing a little dance and just the whole 9 yards. And then what was perplexing to me was when the cameras panned over to you, it was like you weren't furious, right? You weren't stopping everybody like I've seen you pulling them off the field.
Sure.
You're just smiling.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, that's interesting. But retrospectively, what a brilliant psychological ploy, because things hadn't been going real well
exactly.
in the Georgia-Florida series then. And
right.
I do think psychologically, Georgia was bamboozled about this game a little bit.
It got you thinking about something else. It got him thinking about.
It turned the tide.
Let's score.
That day, it turned the tide that day. But the one thing people don't remember is that play went to review.
Yeah.
All right. So
it was very close.
It's 3rd and 1, right?
Yeah.
And he's reaching over, and they decide to review it. If he'd have been 1 inch short, it'd have been 3rd and 30 because we had 2 penalties, and we probably wouldn't have scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
That might have been my last game as head coach at Georgia.
What was going through your mind when the play had to be reviewed? Are you thinking like, wow, that was a lot of celebration for this to be called back?
Well, I'm thinking, I know what I'm thinking. I'm like, what in the world am I going to call on third and 30? There aren't many good plays.
Yeah.
Aren't many good plays to call with
3rd and 30. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it had gone from genius to idiotic, and we know that's how it works in the coaching
It's funny
business.
how thin that line can be as a coach.
Very, very
He's
thin.
a genius, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, there's just so many things about that play and that game in particular. But I mean, I noticed just you're in an eye. There's 2 fullbacks on the field.
Right.
It was blocked decently, but as you mentioned, not great. I mean, Noshawn took off from it looked like the 4-yard line or so. He sailed pretty good.
He saved my career right there. Or at least postponed it a little bit.
Did you ever have a conversation with players like, guys, I'm so glad you had so much fun doing that, but that wasn't exactly what I was trying to get you to do?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I just kind of went with it once we had success, but the ramification of it truly was the next year, as we all remember.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
They beat us down pretty good, and they called 3 timeouts in a row to let their fans celebrate just a little bit longer.
Yeah, and that was the freshmen that were on that 2017. That would have been their only. That 2017, that would have been their only win because you lost the next 3 years. The 2 of them were lopsided. The other one was very close, but the Florida rivalry before that had not been going very, very well. You got it turned back around in,
How big
in
was-
that year
yeah.
and subsequent years.
How big
yeah.
was that win to get
Oh,
that
it was
win against
big.
Florida?
I mean, even the year 2002, the year we won the SEC championship for the first time in 20 years, we had one loss that year. It was Florida, and as it turned out, Florida lost twice to allow us to get in the game, the championship game, and we ended up beating Arkansas to get there. But and going back on that season, a lot of people feel like that Florida loss cost us a shot at the national championship. But if you remember, the two teams that played that year was Miami and Ohio State, and they were both undefeated, and they were both ranked higher than us when the season started. And even if we were undefeated, we probably still would not have gotten in that game. But now, if there was a 4-team playoff, we'd have played in.
Coach, I got 2 more quick ones for you because I know we can't stay at your house all day. First of
All
all,
right.
thank you for letting us stop by. I know
Yes.
you're hooked up and
I'm
pushing
hooked.
through. We
That's right.
appreciate it. We
Yes.
appreciate it so much. But I've got to ask, you still live in Athens, at least part-time.
Well, full-time now.
Full-time now, with grandbabies. You got some grandbabies in the background. What does your time, when you reflect back on whether it's that game or just your whole time at UGA,
Sure.
what does it mean to you? It's
Right.
got to mean a lot. You still
Oh
stuck
yeah,
around.
well we came to Georgia hoping that it would be our last stop. I didn't want to take a head job and think in terms of it being a stepping stone to go somewhere else. So I was very patient before I took a head job, and Georgia was one of the schools that I felt like could be one where we really feel good about the chance of winning big, but also a place to raise our children too. And we raised all 4 kids here, and the 2 youngest went from K5 to graduation in the same school. And so our kids look at Athens as home, and we do too. And my mom, my dad, my brother, my 2 sisters all moved to Athens during the time I was coaching here. And even after we left to coach at Miami, they stayed.
They stayed put.
So everybody loves Athens, and we do too. And we're proud to be one of the former head coaches that still live in town.
There's a few of you guys. It's pretty amazing.
Coach Dooley,
the last 5.
Coach Goff, Coach Donnan, and myself.
That's right. And Kirby Smart lives somewhere around here.
And Kirby too. He's not a former, but not soon to be, but one day he'll be.
That's right.
We all become former one day.
We all expect him to stay here.
Oh, yeah.
He has to now, apparently.
Absolutely.
I got to get your thoughts on Georgia this season.
Right. Well, they're obviously number 1 for good reason.
Doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, Stetson Bennett coming back was kind of nice, and of course we know there was a world record, defensive players drafted last draft, and you'd think they'd be in trouble, but Coach Smart's been recruiting so well at all positions that people tend to remember the starters and your signing class, but they forget the guys in between that are developing, getting ready for their day. And when you get your program to the point where Georgia has it now, kids don't mind sitting behind a guy for a season or 2 to get their moment, because they know when they get their moment, they'll make the best of it on the field and in the draft as well.
Coach, I could listen to your stories all day long. Chip, Mark, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate your time so much.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks to all of you for watching. Make sure you go to ajc.com or subscribe to our YouTube channel to find more videos just like this one.